What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Immortal Minds. Today, we've got a whole host of guests. We've got, well, one of them is technically a host. We've got Puckett. What's up, Puckett? How are you doing?
Hey, bud, I'm excited to join this. We got the TSM boys with us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Drone and Taylor's. Drone, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
Taylor, you awake for this?
I am, yeah. Very,
Hey.
very awake. I feel super ready to talk.
It's interesting, we were talking about some of the topics and to go over and sometimes I think I take it for granted that I just know who everybody is. And Bucket, again, being the good host that he is, actually put a note into the doc as like we should actually probably ask for some more information for people who don't know who you two guys are, Drone and Taylor. It's who are you guys behind the scenes? Obviously, Drone, you play for TSM, and Taylor, you're a coach. But what are your, can you give us some tidbits about your backgrounds and how you kind of, came to this position as being one of the, positioned to be a great player and a great coach on one of the best Valorant teams?
Yeah, no, I was a professional Counter-Strike player for a couple years. Not tier 1, definitely tier 2. I played for Splice and Envy. And then I switched to Valorant right as the beta came out because I just felt like it was a change of pace and I really wanted to get away from Counter-Strike. There's some soiled things there. So, yeah, I just made the swap and it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, Counter-Strike, I obviously came from CS2, and I coached Drone and I coached Cutler on a team, and I coached Wardell and Sabrosa on Orgless, and we could not find an org for the life of us on that team. So switching to Valorant made sense because we all trusted Riot, and I knew Drone and Cutler were having a really good time in the beta. They were kicking ass, so I figured that meshing these four together and then going after Hayes, who had been really enjoying it too, and he had played with Cutler before, would be a good fifth for us. So, but Counter Strike for me felt like a party that I didn't really belong at, or like I was trying to figure my way out through. Like I understood the game and keeping up with the meta was interesting and stuff, but this just felt like such a fresh opportunity to come and really pave our own way. So
Yeah, Taylor, can I ask a little bit about your background in particular? Like, how does someone want or choose to become a professional esports coach? And then to get into it at the grassroots level, you got to dive in tier 3, tier 2. So what was like that come up for you? And then how did that change when we entered the world of Valorant?
My come up actually came through the media part. So I would do interviews with Launders, the Counter Strike caster. We paid our own way to go to events and start doing interviews, and then like Henry G's company paid us a little bit of money for one event, and some of our interviews took off, like the Adderall interview with Semphis. That was the one that we did. So that made like New York Times and stuff, and that landed Launders the job at Yahoo Esports, and it got us a lot more exposure. And then after those interviews, I went to work for Splice as an analyst. So I moved to California, quit my job. I used to work in the auto industry. I like raced cars, and I was a mechanic for a while and stuff.
Hence the BMW. It makes sense now.
Yeah. So cars were like my whole life for a long time, and then my friend got me into CS:GO in like 2015. I played 1.6 in middle school, all the way into high school, and I played like some pro level matches, but I was always just messing around. And becoming a coach was never like an idea for me. I never wanted to do it. I still probably wouldn't want to do it if you asked me, honestly. Just because like this idea of being like I always tell my guys that I'm not a high school baseball coach, and I don't want to yell at anyone, and I just want everyone to be patient and like just play the game. That's all I want. Just play the game. I don't want to do this like psychologist father figure thing. That's just not my gig. So I don't know. It's hard to say what made me want to do it, but I'm enjoying it a lot. So
And
That's
Drone, did you put the team together with Tailored? Was this all Tailored building TSM? How did the team come apart or come together, I should say?
It was mostly me. Like me and Cutler went to Taylor, offering him like, "Hey, we're gonna switch to Valorant. Would you want to come over with us?" And he's like, "I have an idea." And then he talked to Yassine and Matt. So I'd say it was mostly him orchestrating the whole thing. But it was like 2 groups of people coming together through him.
I'll take that credit, but it was a group effort. We
Alright,
all
never
kind of
mind,
knew
we all
what the
did it.
right move was.
That's awesome. I mean, it had to feel like very good going into a game where you can kind of just reinvent yourself, because it does feel like CS, as long as it's been around, everything is very sort of all the trenches are kind of dug in at this point. Everything's quite cemented and crystallized. So it does feel like a lot of players and struggle to gain the opportunities that maybe their skill and passion and work ethic perhaps earn them. So it's really cool to see that it's come together in this way. I will quickly say throughout this show, everybody will be doing some giveaways. We've got 3 giveaways courtesy of TSM, who've been super kind to provide us with some really dope merchandise. Obviously, you can see Taylor is sporting some awesome TSM merch right there. So if you want to be sexy like Taylor, make sure that you're active in the chat. That's what you need to do to be eligible to be able to get dropped one of these giveaways. No regional restrictions, anyone from anywhere. We've got a box tee, we've got a canteen, the keychain, and a mouse pad. And then lastly, we've got the Dragon hoodie, which will be sub only. So, make sure that you're active in the chat. And in fact, we'll do the first giveaway now. So we'll run it for about 30 seconds or so. So you just have to chat in the chat. And right, so that gives us 30 seconds for some small talk. What did you guys have for breakfast?
I didn't eat breakfast.
Haven't eaten yet. I need
Have a
coffee.
glass of juice.
No one's eating anything, so that's cool. Is that something? That's an interesting question, actually. If you're going to go and compete for TSM, do you guys all have different habits, or are you all on the same page in terms of what is the best for your performance?
I think everybody on the team has their own different pregame, like, I guess, ritual, right? Like,
Yeah.
I try to eat and, like, make sure I'm drinking a lot of water while I play, but so I know some people, like, specifically ritually wash their hands before they play, like, a lot. It's
Yeah.
just, like, a thing that they do to, like, make sure they grip the mouse better. I don't know, I don't know what they say about it, but it's, like, right before they play, they go and wash their hands. I know that. I think one of our teammates says that. You seen maybe?
Matt
Makes
washes his
sense.
hands quite a bit. Yeah, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of good stuff you can do to build routines going into games. Maybe not like superstitious routines, but I think that there's also a lot of bullshit that gets peddled among sports teams and esports teams, especially by people who are just making shit up. It's like acupuncture in the esports world. So I let the guys like figure out what works for them, and they're all mature enough to know that if they're feeling off their game, then they're doing something wrong, and they need to assess, their habits or whatever externally. And I'm happy to talk about it with them too. But most of the guys are aware enough. I mean, Wardell is like Mr. Olympia, so he knows exactly what's going on with his own body.
Makes sense. I actually think the hand washing thing makes sense, but quickly, I think it's time to do the first giveaway. Actually, draw a winner. So if the Immortal Minds bot would be so kind to hit the big red button, we'll see who's getting that first giveaway, which is the box tee to start things off with.
It's not nice to call Mike a bot.
Push up plays?
Who is it?
Oh no, as a sub.
I thought
That was
it
a sub.
passed.
That wasn't a bot.
The pie guy.
The
Pie
pie guy
guy.
won the giveaway, yeah.
Congrats, the Pie Guy.
That's a good name.
Pie is it? Yeah, that is. Pie is the way of life.
I don't even have that shirt. It's a sick giveaway.
Awesome.
Again, this show is awesome. We've been live for 5 minutes and you're already giving stuff away. You do
Yeah,
this
man.
every
TSM
episode?
gave us. We try to. Yeah, we try to. Especially if teams want to give us some merch to give away, we love to do that. Just because we actually love to have like a couple players or coaches from the same team. It's always interesting to get those people on together, see what the chemistry is like on this live show. But speaking of which, I have to say, you guys have been, I guess, somewhat quiet ultimately because there hasn't been much in the way of tournaments going on. And, already, we were talking sort of off stream about a little bit about, First Strike and, rankings and stuff. And we'll get deeper into some of those topics. But what has it been like for you? Because in contrast to CS, you guys haven't had much, play time in actual tournaments, which is a different type of practice from actual competitions. Is that weird?
It's a little weird. When we started playing initially, we played a lot of tournaments. We like would enter whatever was pretty much going on, like a lot of opens. The CLG Blitz Cup, I think, was one, and pretty much anything we could play in. So we actually had a run there where we played pretty consistently a lot of tournaments, even if they weren't big ones like Ignition Series tournaments. But after that, since what was the last one we played in, Taylor?
The last Ignition event.
Yeah, and then
The
since then we've had that
Pop Flash.
long break. Yeah. So since then it's been a bit weird. It's been a lot of time to practice and work on things that we want to improve about our game. So I think we're all excited to kind of show off what we've been working on.
It's funny, it's been so long that our the meta we developed is starting to feel stale already. And we haven't even played it, we haven't showed it, but all the top teams kind of know what we're doing already because we've scrimmed them so much, and we haven't even shown it in a tournament yet. So our everyone's agents have changed, and the way we play maps have changed, and our IGL is different now and stuff. So
There's a lot right there. Can we start though with the agents? Like, what should people in my matchmaking games be playing? Because I feel like a lot of them are running off of 6-month-old VODs. I watched a lot of scrims yesterday, and I was blown away by the amount of Reyna and Phoenix combos that I saw. Is Jet out? Is Jet still in? What should people be running, Drone?
I think Jet's still in. I have noticed a couple teams playing less of Jet. I'm not. I guess it's because the op nerf people maybe want to move away from her because they're expecting more of a nerf. To follow that up, just specifically on Jet, but I think she's still viable, and I think people should still use her. So in terms of your ranked, yeah, I mean, if you have a sick Jet player, like you don't want any random guy running Jet. Like you want your best, either op or just generally best mechanical player to run Jet. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go heavy duelist in rank though, because if you have like 3 duelists and the things kind of go south and the other team's better than you, that goes really bad really quick.
yeah, I think this game you can play any comp, right? It just has to fit your play style, and you have to communicate. So the hardest part about this game compared to a CS pug is that Counter-Strike's um, a set way of doing things, right? And most people have been watching it for so long that they kind of understand a default, a rush. They know how to throw basic utility. But in this game, it's like there's colors and explosions, and you don't know what the hell is going on half the time. So it takes a little bit for people to get used to. But I think in the next couple years or whatever, you'll see people pick up oh, I gotta fill in this Sage or Brimstone or whatever.
Yeah, and one thing I think that we did have in terms of tournaments, obviously, is we did have the Renegades Invitational as maybe somewhat of a look into maybe where the meta is going right now, at least in North America. And of course, a lot of the top teams were missing from that tournament, you guys included. And what did you think about some of the games you saw from that tournament? We obviously had the biggest storyline is Andbox, of course, doing so well. But there's almost, I feel like with that, there's almost a pinch of salt that needs to be added because in this game, it feels as though even more so than much more so than CS, a team can have a really good run if they're a brand new team, and it can be a lot down to the fact that no one's used to playing them. No one is understanding what to expect from them. And as soon as teams start to say, okay, this team is actually a threat, does a little bit of work, gets a bit more intel, prepares a bit better, then that team's results might dip quite significantly. Is this something that you guys are like? Are you looking at Andbox like that right now, or are you genuinely impressed with what they were able to accomplish at Renegades Invitational?
I mean, I think the most exciting thing for me about that Renegades tournament was to see like the new roster like Unbox come out and play, because I think that was the first, maybe not the first tournament they played in together, but the first like with a bunch of eyes on them, or at least enough, against tier 1 teams. And so, I mean, you can't discredit entirely what they did, but also, that like you said, that tournament didn't have all the tier 1 teams in it. They weren't the best in it. I'm excited to play them if we get to. That'd be really cool. But just with the people on the team, I'm friends with all those guys, and I'm happy to see them finding some success. So yeah, I wouldn't discredit what they did, but also like I wouldn't take it as like they're a tier 1 team yet.
Yeah, I played with Brat, with Android, and Jake Yaster, and both those guys are so talented. I don't know if I can curse. I'm sorry if I slip. But,
You're all good.
Okay.
You be you.
Those guys, yeah, that works. Those guys are so talented that I'm just happy to see them with the org support to do what they need to do. I know that they had some trouble finding a full roster to fill out, but it seems like the 5 that they got are willing to put in the work. So we'll see how they can compete at the highest level, or how all of us can compete at the highest level. Honestly, it's been so long that all these teams who were at the top, us and Sentinels and Envy and stuff, could be a lot further down now. We don't know. We just won't know until this tournament comes up, but we feel pretty confident. So
We're still so early in Valorant that I feel like every team at this point, as a producer, like my mind says, we need to make 1 or 2 stars on every single team. So if I could ask you guys to break down this squad, I see if you go to the Wikipedia page, if you go to the Spike, there's different lineups here, but according to their most recent lineup, it says Yaster, Android, Akis, Poach, Seb, and Boy. Boy, of course, just got announced yesterday, I believe. So out of all those names, who are the 1 or 2 that you'd put at the top of the list as players to watch for any of the fans that may want to support this New York team?
Android and Ye, right? I think Taylor.
yeah, definitely Brad and Jake. Just because of the plays that they're gonna have, but I mean, people sleep on players like Seb. I don't know Boy really, except through Valorant, and I don't know anything about Poach, just because I'm so disconnected from other esports. So all these like Overwatch or Fortnite people coming in, I'm like, I have no idea who you are. But I think a lot of people slept on Seb in Counter Strike. I always liked the way he played, and he always seemed like a smart player. So I think people should be paying attention to him.
All right.
Yeah. Speaking of other roster changes, there's been so many, and one of the recent ones was that we saw for Gen G, Effie's got dropped and Sean got added. Sean, I think is on the top 100 ranking was 11th, I think, and so definitely someone that's been on the grind. Do you guys know much about this Sean character?
Besides playing him in ranked, no, but he's played a couple ranked against me and he went pretty crazy. So if he plays like that, it'll be insane. But it's ranked, it's a bit different.
Does
but
he have
I'm
a
excited
go-to agent that you know of, Drone?
No, he played it. I think he played Reyna when I played against him. So I'm definitely know he's a duelist, but I'm not sure which is his go-to.
Yeah, Gen G's gonna have to switch up their lineup a little bit, I think, to fit him in a way that he wants to play. But I honestly don't know much about Sean, so I haven't seen him compete really at a high tier tournament. So we'll see if his ranked capabilities can keep up with his competitive play. But
Can we talk about the? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. And I was just gonna say I trust the Gen G guys. Their coach is smart. The players are smart. And I love Effie's too. I hope Effie's goes to a nice team. He's a super smart player.
I feel like when I look at Gen G, I kind of know what player 1 is going to do. But the rest of the squad has kind of moved around different roles. Is there anyone you think is playing a role that doesn't necessarily fit them on the squad right now? And knowing that another duelist could potentially be coming in, who would you swap around, if anyone, off the top of your head?
I don't want to say too much who's running what agent, like in scrims, because they might not want certain teams to know.
You're a good guy.
Yeah, well, I hope they're not on some podcast talking about our agents either. So, but I think like those guys just have a really strong chemistry. So as long as everyone's kind of comfortable on their agent, their chemistry is what's going to win them games. So it's not really like who fits what role or whatever. It's almost like an even playing field. That's what it feels like when we play them. At least any one of them could pop off.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how everything actually shakes out in the scene overall, as well, in terms of how people find their comfort on various teams and rosters. It does feel like there's been this shake up, and we have first strike around the corner. So people or teams need to be cementing the lineups that they wish to use, and picking the right players is definitely. It feels like that question is still up in the air to a certain degree as to what really makes the best Valorant player, and I think for two reasons. One, because we don't exactly know for sure where the game is going in terms of the long term. Is it going to be the case that Riot add an incredibly huge roster of agents, like a massive agent pool, and you have to be having players that are able to be very adaptable and really on top of meta changes week to week and understanding how to like work within the drafting strategies, or are things going to be a little bit more static? It seems like it's still up in the air, like what a Valorant player actually is. So is it just weird? Is it somewhat of a crapshoot, do you think, in terms of selecting players? Are people relying on rankings and like overly, and are they relying on just performances mechanically more so than the other aspects, because mechanics is easy to see, but this game is definitely less mechanical than CS, and definitely players, it feels like they need to be smarter than in CS on average.
Yeah, I think the meta moving forward, especially later in the game's lifetime, I don't think right now since there's not so many agents in the pool, but I think it's going to be a really dynamic kind of situation where players going to need to be able to play like they're just not going to be able to play one agent or two agents. You have to be able to like confidently and competently play on three, maybe four. So I think being mechanically skilled just overall, like with your aiming and your like weapon, is going to be really important. But also being able to like adapt to a situation or adapt to comps based on what the other team's running or what your team wants to do. Because right now, like I said, there's not enough agents in the game for that to be so much of an important factor. But I definitely think that's what it's moving toward.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid that if they add more agents in the pool, then it's gonna become more puggy each time you play, less set strategies and stuff, which is not as exciting for me. Just because I feel like the best part about Counter Strike is that it's always the teamwork that allows teams to win. You know, there's people like Zywoo and stuff that can pop off and win you a game, but you've seen with Simple and Nico and Zywoo that even with someone dropping 40 and trying to backpack their whole team, you still can't win tournaments a lot of the time. So I think in this game, I hope that teamwork stays at the forefront of what pushes teams to win tournaments, and I hope Riot is aware of that. That's why I get afraid of like healing abilities and these crazy ultimates and stuff, but I'm just biased because I come from a 20-year-old game.
Well, one thing we could look at right now quickly is, we have had a lot of these roster moves, and we actually had the Spike GG. I saw that they released a top 10 ranking for North America, and there's been obviously so few tournaments, and generally the sample size of competitive matches to create a ranking is a little bit suspect, I suppose, at this point. But it just is what it is. So yeah, you guys can see on screen that Sentinels is up on the number one spot. You guys are on the number two spot.
Boo.
We've got an entrance from Mamba Mode Gaming, which is cool. They've been a great up and coming team. T1's doing a bit better as well. Do you think that these rankings make sense from your experiences?
There's no phase. There's no 100 Thieves, just to call out a few of the names. No Immortals on this
Mhm.
list, which kind of blew my mind. So is that how things should be, guys? Or what needs to change here? Is it the second half of the group? The first five look fine to me.
Yeah, it's a little weird that like FaZe isn't on there or someone, but I think it's just generally weird that they decided to come out with a ranking system in the middle of the biggest break between tournaments so far we've had in the game. It just seems like a bit of a counterproductive, right? You think they'd wait until like at least after this first strike tournament to try to release this, but I mean, yeah, FaZe should be on there. I think 100 Thieves. Well, again, because 100 Thieves really hasn't played anything, so yeah,
Yeah,
the first half looks
it's hard
pretty
to
solid.
say. I think Immortals isn't on there because they had such a big roster shakeup. By the way,
Yeah, that's a good call.
they only had like 2 remaining players. But yeah, I mean the top 5, any one of those teams, I think could win a tournament. Honestly, all of these teams could probably win a tournament on the right day. Mamba Mode parted ways with We Did, who was a big part of their roster, but we've still scrimmed them after he left, and they still put up pretty good numbers. So Equinox obviously trying to win is like the new hot team right now, right? So yeah, all these teams are pretty solid. I probably wouldn't put T1 in the top 10 right now. But that's just because there's so many orgs. I mean, FaZe, 100 Thieves. We've played all these teams, and I kind of have a ranking in my head of how I would put it. But we just need a competition, and we need a LAN really badly.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My God, we need to get offline.
Dude, it would be, yeah, just that first international land. Just, I think it's so interesting. A lot of pros I've spoken to have said that just it doesn't even matter region to region, just matchup to matchup within your own region. It can feel like stylistically so different. And so that is just such an interesting prospect, because that's something that's in CS, just the fundamental nature of the game made it so that there is somewhat of there's an optimal way, more or less, to play CS, and that's what you're trying to strive for. And for a long time, it was really about figuring out how to put all those pieces together. I think Astralis was the first team that really showed how to do that, and then it felt like everyone was trying to do what Astralis was doing and then perfect all of those fundamentals. But with this game, it feels like it's not about any objective, one best way to play the game. There's just a lot of different ways to play the game. There's a lot of mind games. There's a lot of adaptation, and that's where the game is won. So it's really to me, what is most striking with that idea in terms of how it's different to CS is that in CS you can have a team that does it the best, and that's clear. Are you worried that there won't be as much of a reward in this game for being an Astralis, let's say? Is there going to be too many results that will be one because we just didn't we only had it's only MR12, we only had so many rounds to adapt, we didn't adapt in time, we lost the key map. That's not I don't feel that's as representative as to the skill of our team. We should have probably won that game if we played it 10 out of 10, 10 times as opposed to 3 maps.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a thing moving forward. I specifically like that you brought up the stylistic clashes between teams. I think that's a lot of what made us versus Sentinel so entertaining for people, especially in that phase of Invitational. Is that when we play them, they play us like no other team, at least at the time, had played us. So it really caught us off, and it made us like adapt on the fly and change a lot about our game while we were playing them. And I think someone mentioned, I forget who it was, that we brought the best out in each other, even though there's a bit of a rivalry there. We definitely made each other play to our best potential, and I'm excited to see more of that moving forward. But like you said, it might eliminate the dominance that would happen in terms of like a Shalos and Counter Strike. But I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. Maybe I think that would make for more entertaining storylines between teams.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like I try and watch like EU games. I try and watch matches from everywhere, but I still feel like South America and EU are behind on the meta when it comes to agent comps and stuff. I still feel like there's an ideal comp and there's agents you should be playing. So even though there isn't like one set way to play the game, I mean, you could run 5 Vipers and have a good game for sure.
Wait, Viper's viable?
Yeah, for sure,
Okay.
100%.
Chat,
She's
raise your
she's
answer.
extremely strong right now.
Thank you.
But she is complicated. Like you need to really change the way you play, and people don't want to put that time in. So yeah, you'll probably see Viper on a map or two of ours coming up.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned we did earlier. He did some really great stuff with Viper. That
Yeah.
especially on Bind. That I remember when Mike and I were doing a lot of it was some demo analysis. We were very impressed by some of the dynamics that we saw that are unique to Viper. That were like, holy shit, this is actually very strong, and this is unique to Viper. But we don't see it because no one plays Viper, so people are not finding all of these advantages in the way that you can. But I remember Steele brought up an interesting point when we spoke to him a couple weeks ago, where he said that Viper's an interesting one because with Viper you need Viper to live. Like Viper must stay alive in the round, and if you're running a Cipher as well, Cipher similarly needs to survive throughout the entire round. So you've got an issue in terms of as you said, like you have to change the dynamic as to how you play to really accommodate how to fit that into a structure that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Viper is more of a sentinel than anything else. I don't know what they call the smokers in the game.
Controllers, I think, right?
Controllers. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider her a controller. I think she's more of a deady anchor for sites, and in turn, she becomes like a lurker on T side or on attacking side, um, because she needs to stay alive and she can work so much of the map by herself. But I think like Cloud9's a really good example. Tyson Tens had a lot of good Viper tech that he wanted to use, but I think the team just didn't have the structure at the time. I don't
Yeah,
know
he
if it
needed to
was,
put up 40.
yeah, I don't know if it was in their like server work or their lack of a coaching staff or whatever, but they just couldn't make it work to win tournaments. So he swapped off of it, um, and went into the duelist role, which is appropriate for him because he's a motherfucking duelist. Uh, yeah, but so I think you can make any character work. I mean, we could still swap Brim for Omen on most maps and make it work. Yassine would love to play Brim again, but you know, it's more about like finding what's ideal and then really using your communication skills to make it work.
Yeah, I remember playing Cloud9 in the it was right after beta, right? And I don't know, Tens was scrimming us with Viper a lot on Bind, and watching him do some of the stuff he did was really interesting. It was like the first time I got to see Viper used like competently. And
Yeah, it was annoying. It's just stuff we hadn't seen before. So it was like, okay.
yeah, you'd be in A site and like a little green ball would fall into the bomb site. And you're like, what is that? And it pops and there's just like a smoke all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially. I'll go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like her snake bite doesn't suck anymore as well, which is kind
No,
of
it's really strong.
a game changer if you're a Viper player out there. Shout out to like the 7 people in matchmaking.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing with Vi because so few people are playing her. It's kind of like initially when you have something that's very strong, like let's say the whole jet dynamic with the one-way smokes, and you get an operator and you take risky angles and you dash. Like it's everyone's just doing that gimmick, and there's very few people that are thinking, what other stuff can I do to kind of push the envelope in terms of innovating tactically what that agent can do? Because why would you do that? It's opportunity cost. These things are where I should spend my time. I felt like that's happened with a lot of different agents, and with I think one way smokes is like such a big one. It's like especially with Viper, for example. There's so many one ways which if a player knows like sees that one way, it's just very obvious how you play against it, and it's just doesn't really have much value. And that smoke is very good. So I am waiting for people to figure out the snake bite, similarly as I've been seeing more developments from the smoke, because the radius is huge. And if people know lineups and you're wanting to like retake sites, and as you say, like let's say you save the toxic screen and you're playing the anchor on a site, and you're playing retake. Viper's toxic screen plus the snake bites are pretty immense in terms of taking position and angles away. I can't think of another agent that can do that in that way. So it's kind of cool the possibilities. I can't wait to see what teams come up with
Yeah.
Viper.
Yeah, I think another thing, so like one interesting piece of tech that we like to use a lot is the fact that Viper makes the Phantom like the best rifle you can use
Ooh,
because of
yeah.
the decay on her orb. So a lot of teams trying to execute and pop in this game because I mean our team memes all the time that this game rewards aggression. We say that all the time during scrims. Uh, kind of as a joke, but it's definitely true. So teams like to pop a lot, and if you pop through an Omen smoke, nothing happens. If you pop through a Viper smoke, everyone is one-shottable now with a Phantom, which takes away any advantage the Vandal had over the Phantom. So that's just like one little thing that Viper can add, and all agents have stuff like that. It's just about putting in the time and effort to figure it out with as a team.
Absolutely. Speaking of time and effort and figuring things out as a team, Icebox has been available for a little while, and we're going to see that playable on November 24th. So there's been some time as a team to prepare for that map. What's the state of that for you guys at the moment?
I really like Icebox, and it's hard to separate if I like it because it's new and just something different, or if I like it because it's genuinely a good map. I really do think it has a lot of potential, and it's actually really good. It feels nice to play, even though it looks a little wonky. But like
Mhm.
I had the opportunity to play it before it released. That private content creator thing. I got to play in that, and it was really cool. Especially that Riot was so involved in the process and willing to listen to the feedback and players and things that were wrong. So I think right now, as it is, it's a good map. I'm actually excited to play it in the tournament. I think one of our strengths as a team is adaptability and like just being able, like with new content thrown at us, we're not going to be scared or shy away from it. We'll be willing to play it, and I think we'll be better than most teams on it. So I'm
I,
excited for it.
yeah, we're one of the only teams that's actually scrimmed it, I think, to be honest. No one else has really touched the map, and it was hard for me to get scrims for the week it came out. But when Ascent came out, we dove in because we wanted to be the best on that map immediately. And then everyone gave a shit for not running Sage on the map.
Right.
But Icebox is like it's a super complicated layout. I'm still not sure how the layout's going to play. It's kind of interesting because coming from Counter-Strike, every map has like an A, a B, and a mid, right? So that's what we're used to. And when Bind came out, I was really dissatisfied with the lack of mid. I didn't think the teleporters were enough of a gimmick to justify that. And Bind is still like this weird 4-1 5-man meta everything, and it just makes for boring gameplay, and I really don't like the layout of the map because of that. But Icebox is definitely different than that, but you're going to see a lot of weird non-counter-strikey metas come just because of how complicated the layout is. and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's a really pretty map.
It feels like the Vandal could have a huge impact on that map.
Yeah,
So
100%.
a lot of the gunfights I took, especially trying to take V, the Phantom just was not the go-to. I needed to hit that one headshot from range. Is that going to be enough to change the rifles that we're seeing in competitive play? Are we already seeing more Vandals, or do you think people just find ways to make the Phantom work with smokes?
I think they did a really good job after they buffed the Vandal to make them both so viable that it's like, even as a player and having this much time with the buff, I'm not even sure if there's one rifle that I'm going to use. Like, I switch consistently between the Vandal and the Phantom, but on Icebox, like you said, there's those long sight lines, but there's also really tight corners, like in I don't know what you guys call it, but we call it kitchen, or like, where you go through that long tube. Those are really tight corners. They're really good for Phantom engagements. A site, or it is a site, right? The maze site.
Inside,
A-site.
yeah.
Yeah, that
That
one's pretty
should
good
be
for
B,
Phantom.
by the way.
It
I
should
think
be B.
A and
It
B are
always,
swapped on those maps. We
yeah.
will scrim, and I'm like, go A. Fuck, I mean B.
No, the other A.
Yeah. And then, I think A site, like, if you go through the bottom part of the site, it's a lot of close corners, a lot of really quick fights, or one-shotable range for Phantom. But if you go up top on that, we call it like Heaven, it's really good for Vandal because you're having such long fights. So I think the map in general there's going to be no rifle dominance on the map. I think it'll be dependent on the players and their roles.
Okay. I was playing Omen, so that makes a lot of sense. It's like, I was
Yeah.
always high ground A. Yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I think both rifles are I mean, people come in my chat all the time. They're like, Phantom or Vandal? Phantom or Vandal? That's like easily the question I get the most. And I just tell them, whatever's going to get you a kill, just use that gun. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Like, Phantom, I think on paper is probably better just because it has more bullets. I mean, that alone could make it better. But it really depends. Depends what agent you're playing, what map you're playing, how you're playing. There's so many variables in this game. It's crazy.
It's actually it is a question we actually tend to ask guests at every single episode, just as a nice little filler question, because it is really interesting the amount of answers that we get. But I feel like what it always seems to come back to is that because there's so much of an argument either which way for different situations, as you say. I feel like Riot did a pretty good job with those two guns, actually, like a really good job. It feels very hard. I mean, look at CS, like those guns have been established for many years, but the whole like AKM4 thing, those guns have been changed a lot over the years.
Yeah, no, Riot did a great job balancing them and making them both like attractive to players with different playstyles.
I think the
Um,
weapons in general have been balanced pretty well. There's still a few like pretty OP things about the Odin, especially. I think the Odin is like so dumb. Just yeah, just because like my issue. So the reason I didn't have a big issue with the operator, and I know I meme about it on Twitter a lot, but the reason I didn't have a big issue with the operator was that because it was defensible. So nothing's that OP if it's defensible, right? You cannot defend against an Odin spraying you through 9 walls. The only indefensible thing about the operator was Jet, which is why I was calling for a Jet nerf. I think most pro players were calling for a Jet nerf rather than an operator nerf first.
Right.
yeah, that actually did surprise me that they took the option of actually kind of not really touching Jet, but massively altering the operator and still not adding a scope sound. So that's cool.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with Jet? I think that's their problem. Like, if you nerf anything about her, I don't think people are going to want to play her that much. So I think whatever they do, they're going to have to get pretty creative to make it a viable solution where she's still played sometimes.
Just
Yeah,
make
it's
her
weird because
floating silent.
Yeah.
nothing about Jet is that OP except where she gets the op and then she can do that dash, and it's just so
It's
crazy
just
that you can go for a free pick and dash away for free with like no punishment. So
and her alt is insane.
yeah,
Maybe there's like a weight restriction on the dash that will come in at some point. So any weapons,
Yeah.
all weapons will suddenly have a weight value, and
Oh my
the
god,
operator in Odin, she can't.
we're playing Tarkov now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking of agents and so on. We have obviously Skye releasing in 3 days, and so everyone will be able to play her, and she'll be playable in First Strike November 9th. You guys excited for Skye? Concerned for Skye? Does she seem cool?
definitely seems cool. I got to play her and she was I didn't get to the pool of players was like very vast. So you had the players on tier 1 teams and you had just content creators. So it was really hard to tell where she fit in like a really like high tier competitive standpoint. Um, I think it's interesting that her flashes are shootable. Like her little bird flashes, you can shoot them before they pop and they won't blind you
Ooh.
if you manage to do it.
How
I
hard
think
is
her
that?
it's not. They don't move very
It's
fast.
like
Like if
2
you're
bullets. Yeah.
yeah, it's like 2 or 3 bullets. And her ult also is shootable. So I think it's kind of hard to see. I think they might need to buff the flashes a little bit, but I'm excited for her. Like I said, I think we're really confident in our ability to adapt and change to different things in the game. So
I think the amount of tech she brings is pretty insane. So not only does she have the flash and the ult that's perfect for post plants and site takes and stuff, she also has an AoE heal that you can stop and start whenever you want. So I
the
think
heal is insane.
on paper she's really strong, but so was Killjoy. And then now Killjoy is like still viable on a few maps, but I don't think she's that strong.
With Skye, I thought it was the Tasmanian Devils, the ultimate. Is that going to actually be worthwhile in tournament play? Do you think people will be able to hunt down those kills in time, or is just getting the information going to be good enough? You mentioned you could shoot them, so I'm
Yep.
thinking like as a player at the pro level, how much do you actually get from that ult?
I'm honestly thinking I think the most exciting part of that ult is the fact that not so much like a good player almost never is going to get hit by that. They move really slow and you can shoot them, like I said. But the info it gets, especially if you're in like a 1v2, 1v3 and you don't know where they are, if you pop that, even if it doesn't kill them, you see what way they go. So you
Right.
know where they're playing. So there's some pretty cool potential for like clutch situations with that. But yeah, no, I think
It's almost
that's
like a
mostly
cipher ult.
yeah, kind of almost just a little bit less. But I think it'll be mostly used for info. I don't think it'll ever really hit anybody.
Hmm. It's gonna
And
be interesting to see how that goes.
her like Roomba thing, I don't know what it's called, but that acts as an AoE blind as well. So not only does she have flashes, AoE heal, she also has an AoE blind and a singular stun, plus the ultimate. So that's a pretty strong agent on paper.
Yeah,
What
but
do
she
you
can reach so
Stuff, so I'm not playing her.
Yeah.
what do you think about her flashes giving like an audio cue when they actually blind someone? Do you think that is like good enough even though the flashes are easily like broken? Do you think that's a good balance or is that too much maybe?
I think it's kind of cool. It's interesting. It's different.
Yeah, I haven't actually played with her yet, so I can't really say until I run around the server with her.
Just
Do we
slotting
know
her
how
in the
long?
lineup.
Sorry, do we know how long she's out before we see her at the pro level? Like, will Riot restrict her in most tournaments moving forward? Do you think community events will restrict her?
Yeah,
I think
Riot puts an embargo on their new agents.
November 9th is the first day that you can use her for first strike.
Yeah.
it's gonna
Which
be
is kind of
really.
nuts because like we've been doing all this prep work and we might have to quickly change our entire comp and setup a few weeks into a big tournament. So
Who would you say on TSM would most fit how you anticipate Skye to play? Like who would make the most sense on TSM, or is that something that you wouldn't feel comfortable answering right now?
well, most of the top teams, I mean, like the fans and stuff don't know who's playing what agent and stuff. They don't even know that, Cutler is IGLing now and he has been for months. But most of the top teams kind of know, like just because we've been scrimming everybody. But I think that what we really want is a jet nerf because there's a lot of agents that we want to put in our lineup that we can't because Jet is just too strong. She's
Right.
too powerful to use. So I mean, Wardell will tell you that he wants a jet nerf more than anybody.
Okay,
I mean,
interesting.
he's sick of playing against her, and he's sick of people getting away with stuff because of they're playing jet. He wants to rely on his op skills just for what they are. So
I respect
Andy,
it.
Andy's a good rifler.
Okay, so I'll take this moment before we sort of move things along to do our second giveaway. So we're giving away the canteen, the keychain, and the mouse pad. So all you have to do is be active in chat, and we'll start that right now. I want to ask you, Jerome, actually, whilst we're doing this. So we had Scream on, and we were talking about usual Valorant things, and his mind was blown that he thinks Phoenix has just always been garbage, and he had no idea how Phoenix came into meta in North America. And I actually blame you for that. So Why is because I think you're an amazing Phoenix. I think you're definitely the best Phoenix player I've seen on the pro level. So what is it about Phoenix that you think made so much sense, and why did it complement TSM and your playstyle?
I think the thing that drew me to Phoenix initially was his design as a character really fits my playstyle. It's really aggressive and it's very playmaking. I think the thing with him is that, and maybe EU just has a different mindset on this, but like his ability for on the fly playmaking, decision making kind of thing like that, like where you see an opening and you can take it really quickly with Phoenix because his flashes are like they're selfish, but they can also be used in a team environment. But if you see a window of something, you can flash that smoke, or you can flash around the corner, or you can go for the kill. Whereas like on a character like Breach, where you can flash for yourself technically, it's not really going to work so well. You have the weapon pull out time, you have the flashes that are somewhat turnable if the person's fast enough. Um, and I think that I guess I don't want to say they haven't played against a good enough Phoenix to see why he's viable, but like I appreciate you saying that I'm the best or whatever. I'm the reason the meta came around, but I'm happy to see other people picking him up and actually using him in the way that like I thought he was really viable in a comp, and I think in our playstyle it complements it pretty well because we're like I said we're very like we have strats and we have strategies and we have like set things, but we also have ability to like adapt on the fly and make those adjustments that you need to do in the middle of a game. So and I think Phoenix is really good for that.
Can we get Drone's official top 3 Phoenixes in North America list?
Ooh, not myself, right?
We'll put you at number 0, the originator.
Okay.
Spot.
Caboose before he's like kind of doing Reyna and Phoenix, but Caboose is really solid.
Corey.
Corey, yeah, but he also plays like Raze too. But God, Corey's insane. That guy.
Mhm.
So, and
He's
then I don't
really
know.
cute too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't really think of. I don't know if anyone else really mains Phoenix. GMD played him for a little bit.
Yeah,
He
we
was
don't.
pretty good.
I can't even name someone else who plays him, honestly.
And have you seen a Phoenix in any other regions? First of all, do you watch the other regions, Drone, or you just focus on what's going on with NA?
We as a team watch it. Taylor specifically takes time outside of practice himself to like watch other regions and really pay attention. And whatever he finds from there that he thinks is important or something that we should look at, he'll bring to practice and we'll spend time together watching. So, I have experience watching some games, but not as much as like someone like you or Taylor or DDK.
For sure.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. Sinatra's name hasn't been dropped here. Is there a reason why you think that Sinatra's Phoenix isn't worth mentioning in the top 3 here? He's got a lot of fans, man.
I think Sinatra. I think Sova. I just is in my head. I don't think of him as a Phoenix. I think he's
Okay.
so like playing against him. He's so much, or I think he's so much more impactful as a Sova. He's like the most annoying Sova I've ever played against. So in my mind, I don't connect him as a Phoenix player. I connect him as a Sova player.
I mean,
Just one map, Dan.
True that. Yeah, I respect that. Well, with that said, time to press the button. The Immortal Minds bot is going to draw a winner. And for the record, as we had mentioned earlier, it is not Mike. It is a bot we have specifically made for this show. And it is Dioroloff. So congratulations. You have won yourself some TSM merch, the canteen keychain, and mousepad. The next giveaway will be at the end of the Ask Us Anything segment, and that's going to be the Dragon hoodie, which will be a sub-only giveaway. That is, it's pretty gorgeous. So, right, moving things forward then. We kind of talked already about sort of the current state of the game, but what are we hoping to get out of First Strike most, given that it's really the big return to the most serious tournaments, and Riot are kind of backing this, and Riot are going to be running those finals as well. So this is a big deal.
Yeah, I think the tournament's gonna set the precedent for like moving forward what Valorant tournaments are gonna look like for the most part because Riot is so involved in this, and they're by far the most involved of any tournament. Like they've talked to us individually and they've talked to other teams just specifically about the tournament and what things should happen. And on top of that, I think it's a really good way to start seeing where teams match up with all the new roster shakeups and where things have gone. So, us against Sentinels, see how that matchup still goes because we haven't played them in, like Taylor said, even in practice or any kind of capacity in like months. So it's hard to say where that's at. If Gen.G stacks up or Andbox, maybe they are a top team. So I think that's going to be like the most exciting thing for me as a player is to see where everyone else is right now because I know where we are and I know how our practice has been going, but it's hard to say what everyone else has been doing.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's like I think in the future it won't be qualifier only, so that's a little different. You probably will see invites to future Riot events. So I think a lot of the pro players at the top tier are just like kind of afraid of playing online versus a lot of the lower tier teams, especially with like how many cheating accusations are going around in
Right.
the super amateur level. Because like coming from Counter-Strike, we had this honor system where you always assume no one was cheating. And I think, we never felt like anyone was cheating against us in CS, and we wouldn't accuse anyone right now. Obviously, we don't feel like top teams are cheating against us, but it's just scary coming into a new game like that, going into a qualifier only event. Just a little freaky. You never know what can happen online.
Yeah, it's a bit scary that like all these there were a couple tier 2 players that got outed and caught, right, and banned for cheating. And then if you think of like the entry requirements for the tournament is like Immortal 1 or something, right? And if it's honestly not that hard to cheat, I mean, so many people will just be like, why not? Try it. And then that could really affect the outcome of a qualifier. So that's kind of spooky.
It's tough because from a tournament organizer side, like how can you do an invite only event at this point if you're trying to launch a league? Like you need to be as open as possible. So it's a double-edged sword. I think we're gonna see the top teams ending up where they're supposed to be. But for you guys, you've done a ton of scrimming, but I assume that's with a small pool because you don't want to show everyone on the planet your strats. So who, I guess, are you guys looking forward to playing or matching up against for the first time, Taylor?
Well, like Drone said, Sentinels is one of the only teams that we haven't scrimmed much, so it's going to be fun to play them again. I think that Sinatra recently had an injury, so he hasn't been able to play much, which is unfortunate. So I hope that they're in top shape when we get to play them, just so they don't have any excuses. But most likely we wouldn't even see them until like, a month out or whatever, till the end of the tournament, just because these qualifiers allow so many teams to move through. But I think that outside of that, I mean, so me and Drone, I started a pro scrim Discord, which is now the one that all the teams use, as far as I know. We wanted to make sure that that was really organized. And there's like a tier 1 group and a tier 2 group, and we scrim, everyone in there, or we try to at least. So we've played against, Genji, Envy, Energy, 100 Thieves, T1, all these teams. So we kind of know how we match up against pretty much every team going into it.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
what's the
easier to
philosophy
name things.
behind that? Because in so many other esports, I've seen like teams that just have a hardcore training partner, or maybe they'll have a group of 3, but their top rivals, they refuse to show them anything leading up to an event. So what has been, I guess, the strategy for TSM? Because it seems like you've been the team since the very beginning, playing as many tournaments as you can, showing off as many streams as you can. Just the highlights are out there. You guys are clearly not giving away other people's strategies. You keep your own strategies close to yourselves, I guess, until you show them in an event. But it's not something where I feel like we've come into a tournament day and I'm seeing TSM play for the first time.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our communication has always been kept under wraps. Like I don't allow tournaments to do listen-ins or anything, because the way we run our defaults and the way we run our strategies and our pacing is that's more of like the trade secret rather than like the utility we're using or whatever. Because I mean, even if you know how we throw an A hit, I guarantee that we have some fake off of it that we can just throw at you too. So there's also stuff that we just don't run in certain practices. So if we're playing Gen G and we know a certain A rush works, we're not going to run it against them. There's no point. Like we know it's going to work, so we'll just practice something else. So we have goals in our scrims. We don't really play scrims like matches. So, well, sometimes we do. Going in towards a tournament, like this whole week, we played more like matches. But I think that's what separates it, is like you can run certain things against certain teams. It's like having 2 chess players and you're just doing each other's moves back and forth to each other and just kind of trying to understand what works.
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive to people that might not know. It's like you think like, oh, if something works, do it a lot. But in practice, if something works, you don't do it a lot because you don't want them to learn to adapt.
Yeah,
It'll
exactly.
stop working if you keep doing it. So yeah, like he said, if we know something works, we'll be like, all right, put that in the book. You leave it there, bring it out later when we need it. It's good for now.
Do you guys think that, because I think over time we will definitely get more and more CS players kind of jumping across just as things grow. And they have obviously a great skill set to jump across with, as you guys also came from CS. do you feel like this? Do you feel like there's a lot of CS players that just wouldn't transfer very well to this game? And for what reasons would that be, if that's the case?
It's hard to say any CS player wouldn't be able to, just because the game at its core is like mechanically so much almost identical to Counter Strike. Like any professional Counter Strike player will come and he'll be able to be like Immortal Radiant just off of the fact that he can shoot people in the head way better than most people. But like the utility isn't so much like Counter Strike, where in CS, like you said, there's like set ways to use it, set pop flashes, set smokes, things like that. In this game, it's so much more on the fly, off the cuff kind of stuff. Like you need to be able to see what's happening, make a decision, and adapt really quickly. And I can't name off the top of my head any CS players I don't think can do that, but I know it's definitely a different skill set just from having the experience of coming from Counter Strike to playing this game. It's like it's a different part of like your brain that you use to like use the utility in this game than it does in Counter Strike.
Yeah, I think right now the game is at a crucial moment where the people who switched over earlier are like getting way ahead of the people who are trying to switch over now. Um, and I think it's just because the game is evolving and the meta is starting to grow for how to play these rounds out, especially on T sides. You'll see a lot of CS teams come over and they just play these super slow, we call them nobbies, these super slow rounds. And it just doesn't work in this game. You can't do that.
Yeah, I forget who I heard say it the other day that like uh it's like all the Counter Strike players that initially moved over are now becoming Valorant players, and all the people moving over are still going to be CS players playing Valorant. So it's like a
Yeah.
bit of a gap.
Mm. Yeah, I feel that for sure. It does seem like a very interesting uh, switch for a lot of people because also, like, again, I think you don't get as away with mechanics as much, for sure. Like in CS, it feels like there are definitely a lot of players, and I think that the way, at least my perception of the ecosystem of how players kind of get known is ultimately like you have to be you have to some extent be a pug star and to show off that mechanically you can hang. But the thing is that mechanics can get you out of a lot of poor spots that in professional play is not going to be very helpful for you, those kinds of habits to be getting into those spots in the first place. So I feel like that's another interesting spot for Valorant, is that there's also a tier of CS. I feel like, well, again, taking Astralis as an example, where you have a great coaching staff and support structure and a much more of a regimented approach to team play. It feels like certain players, like let's say if you take a player from, like if you took a Liege, for example, from Team Liquid, um, then that guy is very used to playing in a professional way and has been doing that for a long time, has habituated that a culture that makes sense for that kind of environment and so on. Feels like there's like that elite level of CS that exists, and that would be very, very beneficial in Valorant too, because you do need everybody to be on the same page, and it seems like you do need people to be having a good work ethic. And do you think that that level of structure and so on is starting to come up in this game already, or is it a bit freewheely at this point just because the game is so young? Where do you see things going?
I think that switch happened and is currently happening. It kind of started happening when a lot of the tier one orgs started signing teams. People started cracking down and stopping. Like, I know for us when we started playing tournaments at first, it was like we didn't put too much like thought into strategy or practice regimen or anything. We were just like, let's play some tournaments. Let's like play together, see how it goes, do as best as we can, play what feels like fun, right? And then as people started getting signed, we got signed. 100 Thieves got signed. Liquid has a team in EU. All that stuff. Everyone starts thinking it's way more professional. So like things like you said, how the top echelon of Counter Strike players have this regimen and this whole like mindset about them where they're like like a leash. He knows how he plays. He knows how his team works. He knows the environment he needs as a player to like succeed. And I think that's becoming more prominent in Valorant, especially in the top scene, in the tier one scene. But in tier two, I think it's interesting because it's not as much like you see people being more willing, and it's already happening in Valorant where people are becoming stagnant and not willing to try new things, like the Viper thing. Like she's been buffed like 3 times, and there's still not that many Viper players. James is one. We did was one in tier two, and I think that's cool. But yeah, I think it's happening. I think it's slowly shifting toward that dynamic in teams.
Yeah, I think Elise would be a god in this game. By the way, I'm scared for the day he switches over.
He plays casually too, right? He's played a couple tournaments
Yeah,
like ringing for people, and he's
he's
insane.
shit on
He's
us
so
in a
good.
tournament
Yeah.
once. But I'm a big fan of John. So I think that I'm actually kind of underwhelmed with how little development there's been amongst some teams that should be developing. So I don't blame like the smaller teams, amateur teams. A lot of these guys still have, jobs that they work or they're in school or whatever. So I don't blame them for kind of just pugging it out a lot of times in tournaments and stuff. But I'm kind of disappointed in like a lot of the EU scene with the way that they've developed and their lack of structure. uh, I've been really impressed with like how Sentinels has uh, like took a lead and made their game unique,
Mhm.
which was hard for us to adjust to. And then there was like Dignitas threw us for a loop by just playing that one map a lot differently than we had played before, and it knocked us out of a tournament. So there's so much potential there for people to be creative that I'm disappointed in all these Counter Strike players who came from the world of Astralis and the world of Liquid, and they're all just not putting the effort in. So to me, it's super exciting, the idea that we can pave a meta and pave a creative like route through this game, and people don't want to grab that opportunity. It's insane to me.
This is like the first esport I can think of off the top of my head where the NA scene I feel like is pretty confidently like infrastructure is better. Like we have more teams, we have better practice schedule. We have like just more support system under us than the EU teams do. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any other esport that's been like that. So we have this opportunity to change the EU dominance thing, which
Yeah.
is exciting.
Taylor, I think we have a lot of people out there that may be listening to this from the business side of things. So I've done a lot of consulting, and even for Andbox, I was trying to help them put together some players early on, to help them find a coaching staff, to find
Yeah.
analysts. It was way harder than I thought it would ever be to track down people willing to make this their full-time position. So for any of the upcoming orgs, because we know players are being signed left and right as old contracts are now expiring, and as new teams see the gold rush, they need to get in before Riot makes any official plans for 2021. So, how do you find that staff? How do you find a tailored and get someone to kind of put a team together for you?
uh I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's who do you trust in the industry, who do you trust and who do you know that knows what they're talking about? um I said in an interview the other day that there's a quote by oh god, I don't remember who it was. It's like Vin Scully or someone, some football coach or something, announcer, I don't know, who said like the guy on top of the mountain didn't fall there, uh, implying that he had to climb his way up and work hard and stuff. But there's a lot of luck involved too. I think our route here was lucky. And I said in the interview, like, no one talks about how that guy didn't get eaten by a bear on his way up through the woods or whatever. I think luck has a lot to do with it, but it's just finding people you trust, I guess, finding people you want to work with that will like have the same vision as you, I guess, to use kind of a cliche way of putting it. But I don't know, honestly. It's hard. I think a lot of these teams who are coming in are asking me who the potential superstars are, like who's the Stewie 2K of this game right now, and it's hard to answer because I don't know how they communicate. A lot of these people never played on an esports team before. They've never set foot on a stage, and I don't know how they're going to be in the long run. So all I can do is try and refer people who have the character that I would want to work with, or the work ethic at least.
I think that's one of the more interesting and exciting parts of the scene now is that like up until this point, people have been looking at Valorant teams as just like CS players coming to Valorant. Like everyone's like, oh, who's they going to pick up? And you start talking about the names dropped. They're like, all former Counter Strike players, people that might be willing to switch over. But as it moves on, and it's happening like with Andbox, you're gonna have to start and Gen G, you switch to finding people that are Valorant players, not Counter Strike players. So like Sean or like Boy, people who've not had a name in Counter Strike, but like started or are gonna have their start in Valorant. So I think people are hesitant to move toward like looking through maybe that rank leaderboards that got tweeted and trying to find like diamonds in the rough. But
It's hard. We're biased for sure.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
biased 100%. I don't know these people. I don't know Sean, so it'd be hard for me to recommend him to a team that
Right.
you know trusts my recommendation. Um, so
Not
Yeah,
even an
it's
older
tough.
brother like Shanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, with that said, it's time to move into our Ask Us Anything segment. So this is the part of the show where you, the guys in the chat, get to ask questions of all of the guests. We've got Puckett, Drone, and Tailored. If you have any questions for everybody or for anyone in specific, then shoot away, and we'll start delivering the questions. And guys, if you see anything that I'm not bringing up that you want to answer, please feel free to interject. So we'll see. First question I immediately saw from Border Rocks: thoughts on NRG?
I think that team's really good. I think the mix of players, especially with Sam moving over, it can work really well. And Chet as a coach, I have a lot of respect for Chet. I think he's a great coach. I think he's done a lot of good things in Counter-Strike, and I think that I'm excited for if nothing else, just the structure he brings as a coach to the Valorant scene. The way he runs his teams, I've worked with him enough to know that his team won't be bad. Just Chet's team is never bad. So I think they'll be good. I don't know where their ceiling is, and I don't know how good they will be, but I definitely think they'll be a contender team.
Yeah, I think they just need to give him time. Fans need to give him time because they're jumping in headfirst into all this, and Energy is a solid org, and I know that they will give them the room and the space that they need to develop a team, and I know that Czech can develop a team. So just give them time; they'll show you some good results. Definitely a team that we're looking out for, and we enjoy scrimming.
3 months, 6 months? How long do we need?
I don't know, 3-6 months. I think that's fair to at least set a goal and show some results. You don't have to win every tournament, but
Yeah. I think 3. I'll give them 3. I think 3 is enough.
yeah.
All right. So just a quick reminder too, when we're doing the giveaway at the end of this Ask Us Anything segment, it will be a sub-only giveaway for the Dragon hoodie, just so you guys know. Puckett, do you see any questions that are particularly juicy? Anything you want to go for? I'm gonna give you the pick of the litter here.
I want the unfiltered, because lots of people in the chat asked, what is the unfiltered thoughts on 100 Thieves? And I'll just start this because I thought the way they started the squad was ridiculous. The fact that they let so many players go right away was ridiculous. I thought it was a faulty launch. But now that I see the pieces that are starting to come together, I can totally understand why those decisions were made, assuming they had these contracts lining up. But what are your thoughts on the current 100 Thieves, Drone and Taylor?
I think current 100 Thieves is really good. I love the fact that Nitro came over. Nick is a great Counter-Strike player, and he's a good dude, and I'm happy to have him in the scene with us. Hiko is really good, and they picked up a little out of touch. They've announced who they picked up, right, Taylor? Have they?
I don't know. I think so.
Go to their website right now.
Yeah, let's talk about the roster here.
So you have Steel. That was
Yeah.
a big one. You got the 3 super experienced Counter-Strike heads. That's
Yeah.
actually an interesting point too. Even ignoring the additional players they picked up.
Yeah, they're on the spike.
Okay, cool. Yeah, those
I'm
players.
blanking now too.
Austin and Dicey.
Yeah,
Dicey
I
and
knew.
Sue.
I didn't want to say it in case
There
they
you
would
go.
talk about it. I was like, but yeah, no. I think that it's really cool that they're willing to take a risk on Asuna and Dicey. They're both really talented players, and I think with the combination of those two and the 3 CS heads, like you said, Steel, Hiko, Nitro, they could definitely become like a powerhouse of the game. And just playing against them has been really interesting and really fun because they bring a new dynamic to the table in terms of how they play the game. But,
Yeah, I like playing them just for the fun aspect of
Yeah.
it. It feels a lot more like a meta game playing them than just like it's like when you play FaZe, it feels like you're playing Furia and you just have to sit there and wait and they're coming, like just wait,
Yeah.
they're coming, man. But 100 Thieves is a lot more like 100 Thieves and Envy, I would say, are the more like tricky teams to play right now, just because they'll throw fakes and they have defaults. They try to like insert people on their defaults and stuff. Their lurkers are really solid, so I think they're fun to play. I think 100 Thieves' biggest thing is going to be avoiding this like clash of egos, this clash of big headedness that they might run into. But Dicey and Asuna both seem like really easy guys to work with, and they're both really talented. And then, I mean, the CS history of the other 3 is untouchable.
Yeah, it's gonna be super fun to see how that lineup works and how it's maybe gets iterated upon in the future. So I saw a really fun question actually from Buffy27. If you could build your perfect player with the aim of one pro, the brain of another, and the personality of a third, which 3 players would you combine?
Ooh. Aim of
So aim,
Corey.
brain, and personality.
Corey's gonna go with my aim. Brain,
Yeah.
Steel or Nitro. And then personality, Wardell. Yeah.
That's a big
I mean, it's
personality.
people like watching. Yeah, big personality, big.
What is the personality for Wardell? For anyone who's never watched him.
Oh God, Taylor, go ahead.
My God, I don't know. If you could like make sugar into a person, that's pretty much what he's like 24/7.
Oh, that's so awesome.
He's like a human game fuel.
Dude, it's so funny too because I remember when he was first sort of coming up. I think back when he was playing on Ghost Gaming, I saw him in person and he was so quiet. He was so shy and quiet and withdrawn. And now he's just like gone to the opposite end of the spectrum. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I think he's still a pretty reserved person. And I think it's just because he wants to get close to someone before he really lets go with them. But yeah, I mean his stream blowing up has really helped him come out of his shell and show people who he is. So it's good. It's healthy for him for sure.
Says cocaine's a hell of a drug. I'm with you. I don't think he needs that though. That's all natural.
Sugar could be a person. That was perfect.
That was pretty amazing. I got asked, what are your favorite in-game voice lines? And immediately my brain just dropped, and then I went to all of Breach's lines. Do you have a favorite though, Drone? I know you got a lot of time on Phoenix. You got a lot of time on a lot of agents.
Yeah, I think my favorite voice line just in general is going to be a Raze one, where it's just so simple and it just makes me laugh when you'll spawn in the game and if there's a Raze on the other team, the Raze will be like, their Raze sucks. And you're just like, okay, like that's just a little bit of like, it just makes me laugh. So that one.
Yeah. A lot of the voice lines make me laugh. I like whenever Yassine says his, because his game is in French. He put his game in French, so we'll just hear these random French voice lines sometimes. Like, okay. But yeah, they did a really awesome job with all the voice acting and stuff in this game. It's so different from Counter-Strike, man. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like going from working at Apple to working at Disneyland. You know, it's the same amount of money, but one of them is like way more intense with the lore and the colors, and it's a lot more fun, and the engagement.
Yes. Speaking of which, we had a question from Yes Way Station. Are you guys excited about the possibility of a franchise league for Valorant like Riot has done with League of Legends? I always felt that CS was too saturated with events. So there you go. There's some of the Disney there for you. That's a huge identity shift as a player from an open circuit free market system to a more closed system. What do you think?
That's like it's just a scary word, franchising, because in Counter-Strike it was talked about a lot and there was so many back and forth and so much. There was like, it was the most dividing thing I think I've ever seen in the scene was the franchising, was that some people were so against it and some people were so for it. And I don't know I don't watch too many esports outside of like Counter-Strike in this game, but I know Overwatch League didn't do so hot when they did the franchising thing. That went kind of south. I don't know if there's been examples of it working well, but I think if it's done well and done properly, it'd be great. It'd be a good thing. But the matter is like, will it be done properly and well? And I think if there's going to be a company to do it, Riot would do it well. But
I think
it's scary.
they're on their way to doing it well. Honestly, with they've capped community tournament prize pools, but they haven't stifled community tournaments at all. So there's new talent, new teams that have come up. I mean, XCS pros like Drone and myself have found our way in the game, and I mean, Riot has changed our lives 100%. You know, just with incorporating or including us in conversations as players is crazy, and they're building a faithful community behind an actual good game, a competitive game. So that was my biggest worry, was that the game wasn't going to be competitive. But I mean, Counter-Strike is like probably the best game ever made competitively. I mean, it was made to be competitive. That was the whole point of the game when they created the mod. So building a game off of what Counter-Strike has done, and then engaging with it in a way that Valve has never done, is going to be awesome. And mark my words, I swear there's going to be attempts at TV shows and movies and stuff once a lot more of the lore comes out, just because, I mean, Riot has to be thinking in those terms, you know?
Yeah, I'd watch a Phoenix sitcom right now.
Yeah,
Phoenix
exactly.
sitcom.
topics left. Um, I did see a bunch of questions about vision strikers, Dan, and I know that Sideshow has called out a lot of these teams in other regions that are really using utility well in combinations on their executes, something that we didn't see in the early days of North American Valorant. So, have you seen a lot of new utility options, I guess, tailored, or I guess any set plays that you've picked up from other regions that you've been impressed with, or what are your thoughts, I guess, on just utility use in the scene in general right now?
Yeah, we actually have a play called Korean Barbecue that we took from Vision Strikers. uh, but Vision Strikers is probably the one team I'm always really excited to watch. I think they're the best team outside of NA, 100%. And I think that they're the most dynamic team outside of NA. They seem to be the ones putting the most effort in. They run comps that are almost always similar to what we're coming up with. And I
Okay.
don't think that's from them stealing from us. I think that they're, putting the effort in to find those comps themselves. So I think that they could easily place, top 3, top 4 in any tournament in NA, EU, whatever. So big props to them. I like them a lot.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see. I saw some creativity from Vision Strikers on Blind with Jet. There's just this one play that we looked at a bunch of times, and it just struck me immediately. Where at the start of the round, you still got that Spectre. You won the pistol. You're carrying those Spectres over against the first gun round of your opponents. You're on the defense, and the dash forwards immediately from the barrier on A shorts towards showers, and you have the breach flash on the first corner, and then the breach flash on the second corner, and there's a smoke on the right side, and just at showers at the beginning of the round, basically. That was when I saw that, I was like, this is cool because they're not just thinking about Jet being an agent that can dash with an operator and get those free kills. They've actually thought a bit further with this, and that was actually really cool. That was one of the first things I saw from them, where I was like, this is they're thinking this is cool.
Yeah. And they find a lot of fun. Like one of the things I love to do is go in and break all the maps and just figure out what, funky tech I can do with breach flashes. And, they have breach flashes that you can shoot through the floor and stuff on Haven. And
Nutty.
yeah, they have a lot of fun server work put in to the game.
Right. What are the thoughts on adding agent skins? A question from D slash.
Does he mean like agent skins just like cosmetic, or does he mean team agent skin, or both? I guess probably both. I'm surprised they haven't done it already. Actually, to be honest.
I actually kind of wish they would put like specific skins for competitive matches, just because like there's certain spots you can stand with certain agents that you're like invisible. So I kind of wish that they would put like I know they have the outline, like you can put the colorblind outline on.
Yep.
And most teams run yellow, but it'd be cool to see agent like outfit skins to differentiate between defenders and attackers. So
Team
and I would
jerseys.
love a TSM skin.
Yeah. Maybe if they franchise, that would seem like a logical thing to do.
Yeah, Call of Duty's making millions off of it. So I think any developer out there is going to just look at that money opportunity. I think just opening up the idea of selling skins, like the way Blizzard has their loot boxes with Overwatch, right? You have 1,000 somber skins and other, I guess, costumes you can put on. I feel like financially, this is a no-brainer from Riot. I'm just wondering when it happens, or do they have this super strong stance that we will never change our agent skins because we need everyone to be able to identify instantly and know what abilities are coming at them?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. Maybe there's gonna have to be a differential between casual play and competitive play to help with that. But money talks, man. So if there's something you can sell, you're going to try and sell it as hard as you can. But I think Riot's done a really good job of keeping everything tight, keeping everything unique, and keeping everything within like exactly as they want it. This is their game. It runs exactly how they want it to run, and we're along for the ride. So yeah, we would love a franchising opportunity, but we're biased. That's just job security for us. So
Can I ask a question on that? So recently we've seen Henry G at Cloud9 kind of breaking the esports mold and publicly announcing player salaries. We've seen players announced basically making upwards of $350,000 a year, if not more. Multi-million-dollar, multi-year contracts are out there, and it's public knowledge now. I felt like there was a point in Counter-Strike, Dan, where we went from people making, what was it, maybe $5,000 a month, $5,500 a month, to all of a sudden $17,000 a month. And I feel like that is something that is great for the players. It's great for the group in the short term, but long term can do some serious damage if we have inflated player contracts too early in the life span of this title. Orgs are just going to die off. So what do you feel is an appropriate pro salary at this point? And also salaries, I guess, amongst the rest of the supporting staff, all the coaches, the analysts, everyone that's going into it. How high can we go, Drone? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's a bit weird because right now the range of salaries in Valorant, just because I know, is like it's massive. It goes from like from numbers lower than what you were talking about earlier, like the 555. It's from lower than that to like higher than Counter-Strike salaries. That which is like, so there's not been a really settled spot. I think for like tier 1 teams, I don't think there should be a salary like the inflated CS salaries where people were getting upwards of like 20, 25, $30,000 a month. They're like what the complexity salaries are. But I think a good in between, like something that's like, I don't know, like maybe 12, 13, 14, 15,000 per team, especially because there's no like solidified like huge brands. Like obviously someone like Nitro coming from Counter-Strike would get more because he's got that crazy brand behind him and he's got that long-term experience and he's like one of the bigger names in esports. But like for tier 1 teams that are just starting, like us or like Gen G or whoever else, I think those numbers are pretty good.
Okay.
I actually disagree with most people on this topic. I don't think the player salaries are that inflated in CS. I think the orgs are just suffering, what a free market brings to any business. And it's not that crazy to think that if 5 players are making 35 grand a month, that's like $2 million a year or something. That is not that much money for an investor. I mean, I know $2 million is life-changing amounts of money, but this is a business, and the players are your product. So it's not that crazy to me to think that you're spending $2 million on the primary part of your brand, and those players are bringing in, ad revenue, new sponsorships. They should be paying for themselves. So I don't think inflated salaries are a thing, honestly. I mean,
Okay.
it spikes and it goes down, obviously, and it balances itself out. But I think it's unfair to say that players don't deserve a certain amount of money or whatever. They should be taking what they can get.
Oh,
'Cause
trust me, as a commentator, I will take as much as I can get. As a organizer, I will take as much as I can get. As a player, I would absolutely. But I was just kind of wondering for all the new blood that's coming into this scene, what are the acceptable standards? I guess what is also like a minimum that you would pay a player? Because I think $60,000 for me is what I feel is a minimum player salary at the pro level, tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, it demands so much of your time. A lot of these players have to leave their families. They don't have time for relationships. They have to leave school. You're asking them to commit their life to a job where, you could go work at McDonald's as a manager and probably make decent money and still have a life on the side. You still have your weekends. You don't have to travel all over the world, which some people see as an opportunity, but it's still a strain. It's your time. So I think that in CS we saw rookie contracts at the tier 2 level around 5 or 6K a month, and I think that's a fair entry level contract right now for players. I think that's what orgs should be offering up if they're serious about investing in a team, because outside of that, you're just not motivating your players. Honestly, it's like, how much do you really believe in your players if you're not willing to pay them minimum wage?
And give them benefits, people. Benefits.
Yeah.
That man, you're killing me with the questions, Puckett. I loving those. Those are some really important points. I think that those are some really deep ones as well that I think we could really expand a lot on. But unfortunately, we've run out of time, I think, for today's show. But we do, of course, have a final giveaway, which is, I believe, the Dragon hoodie, which Tailored is sporting currently, I think. And it's if you want to be as sexy as Tailored,
Model it
just
too.
be active in the chat,
No.
and we're gonna drop that giveaway. And this is a sub only giveaway, just to be sure. This is the most the MVP item in the whole lot that TSM were kind enough to give us here today. Whilst we are running this one, I will just ask you guys in general in Valorant right now, we've got, of course, a very quickly evolving ecosystem. We've got an opportunity to do things different than CS. Is there something that in CS you feel like became ingrained and just became the way it was because it was always the way it was? Do you feel like we can benefit from some hindsight in Valorant and do things a little bit different? I know that Taylor, you already mentioned that Riot automatically are doing things better in terms of it's not a free market system, but it is open. There are some TOs that can run some stuff, gives opportunities for players and talent to kind of come up in other means. That's a great change to have a bit of both. Are there any other things that you really need to see in Valorant that you want to be lessons learned from CS?
I think one of the biggest things we can take away is the saturation of the tournament circuit in Counter-Strike. How you'd see like horror stories of players that don't get to go home for absurd amounts of time in a row, playing tournament to tournament, constantly traveling, never getting days off, to the point where like there needed to be a players union that's like demanded breaks from tournaments, and even then people were overlapping with each other. So I think learning from that and just making sure people don't we just don't get tournament after tournament after tournament after tournament for people, and to actually like have a system in place for that.
Yeah, I think my biggest pet peeve with Counter-Strike was that pugging did not, it felt like a different game than Counter-Strike. I hated pugging so much because I watched scrims all day and I watched matches all day, and it just wasn't the game that I loved, you know? So I think that if Riot can really develop a good leaderboard that rewards um, not just being a duelist or being a fragger or whatever, that can actually reward team play, that would be the biggest benefit, because you'll see a lot of players come out of the woodwork that would never have made it in Counter-Strike just because they didn't get the opportunity or their set of skills wasn't rewarded. There's things I look for in teammates that I can't see in a demo, you know, or that I have to look really hard to see in a demo. So what a player might have a really bad game, but their support play could be insane, and that kind of stuff is hard to pick up on, especially in Counter Strike. Like in the ESEA system, I think Faceit did a good job of trying to reward it better, and you saw a lot of people come up through FPL. But I think just a better development system for young talent is important.
And that's a really good point. Maybe we'll see team matchmaking where there's some way to set a roster in the game or something. That'd be really, really cool to see Riot as something like that in the future.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's time for the Immortal Minds bot to press the big red button once again. And so who do we have as a winner? Oh, okay. Thanks for the gifted subs. We've got 5 gifted subs from Phil Rudio.
Big
And
Oiler.
the big spender.
Oh, Phil.
Drone, they miss your streams.
I know Phil's a viewer of mine. Phil Rudio. They miss it. I'm gonna play some sub games after this actually, so it'll be fun.
I love
Nice. Well, that's actually something that I wanted to get into. Actually, what are you all up to, Jerome? You said that you hadn't been streaming very much. Are you actually going to start streaming more consistently, play it by ear,
Yeah.
or do you have a schedule that people can follow?
I don't have a schedule. I plan on streaming more consistently. I've been pretty inactive because I've been trying to like. So we practice for like, what is it, 8 hours a day or something, and then my sleeping schedule was the point where I'd wake up, I'd do the things I need to do before practice, straight on to practice, play until 11 o'clock at night my time, and then I would stream from 11 p.m. until like 1 or 2 a.m. and then that would be my entire day, and I was starting to feel some burnout from that. So I wanted to make sure I like didn't push myself too hard, and I wanted to still make sure that I prioritized my competitive play over my streaming and stuff, because to me that's the most important thing is making sure I play well and making sure that my team can rely on me during games. So I think I have a solution for that. Pretty sure I got that figured out. So definitely intending on streaming now.
And very quickly, I missed the name of the winner. It's Blaze Winter Shield PvP. So congrats to you. But Drone, that sounds like striking the balance is always difficult. So it's like good to see that that's something that you seem to have on lock there. Taylor, what are you up to? Is there anything that you're doing that people should know about?
I mean, I stream fairly often. My GPU died last week, so I haven't streamed in about a week. But as soon as my new computer gets here, I'll start streaming again. Right now, we're pretty much just focused on First Strike, so that's been like my whole day is get on the computer and get in a Valorant server or watch other people play Valorant for 13 hours a day. So that's pretty much all I got going on.
And Puckett, what are you up to, man? I know you got loads of stuff going on all the time. You're a
Yeah,
busy man.
I had some crazy family stuff going on. I was away from video games for a bit, but love being back. I'm so excited. First Strike's just around the corner. We're gonna be able to watch not just NA, but lots of different regions. It's back. I felt like we were in a little bit of a rut. There's a little bit of a lull, but the action is coming back. So I'm excited to just jump on that. I've been playing a ton of games, but not streaming because my wife's conference calls get picked up on my new microphone. But we're gonna try and get evening streams out next week on top of the new show I'm doing, the Gamer Hour.
Can I ask
Awesome.
you guys what it's like as talent coming into a new game like this? I mean, you guys are more volatile than we are because you have you don't have set contracts. I mean, you might with Riot, but I mean, is it really cutthroat trying to come into a game like this?
It's hard to predict anything. It's like one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is because I thought Valorant, the game was awesome, and I was like, I'd love to do events, but I can never guarantee that I'm going to get hyped for something. So if I can just make content and just because I want to keep up with it anyway, it's a really good excuse to stay on top of the game and keep exploring it, and at the same time, like I'm on my own show, so I have like a portfolio I'm building. So if someone thinks that what I'm doing is cool, then maybe that'll increase my chances to get picked up. That's kind of how I looked at it going into this game because you can never be sure. It's there's so much great talent, and especially during COVID now as well. There's a lot of talent that are looking for any opportunity as the opportunity because the industry was growing, so there's loads of work for talent. So loads more talent came up and made it their profession. Then all the work went away, so it definitely made things difficult, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting year, and everyone's just got to be looking out for themselves and their families. So, for me personally, I'd love to make Valorant a full-time situation, but it's not there right now. So, I'm staying on top of Call of Duty and Overwatch and all of the other games that I really love and enjoy playing. I'd love to be doing more, but as of now, I don't have any dates on the calendar for any upcoming broadcasts at the moment, and I think that's partly a mistake. Didn't jump in with a casting duo right away. Wanted to kind of work around the industry and see who you really flow well with. I think that's one of the difficult parts of starting a new game is everyone wants a set duo or set pair right away, and they want to lock up the top names in the brand without giving everyone really a chance. And I think that's kind of my goal right now, though, is figuring out like who do I really enjoy casting with the most? Do I have to pick someone from my same region? Am I able to work across multiple regions? We don't know yet because there's no official word from Riot and the other orgs out there that are putting on these events. So I'm excited about the next 6 months, but I think for me, I'm just gonna keep playing the games I love, and honestly, this is the one I've been grinding the most. So Valorant will always be there for me. I'm excited to watch the competitive side, and like I said, I think First Strike is really going to be a new chapter for a lot of people in this esport in particular.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, with that said, thank you everybody for joining us on today's show. It was awesome talking to to all of you. So we've had some great discussions. In terms of what's next for Immortal Minds, we will be going live on Wednesday with our VOD review at 10 a.m. Pacific, as we always do. And by the way, if you're not already following our Twitter and you want to get notification as to when shows are coming or who's going to be on the shows, then follow the Twitter account. And also today on the Twitter account at 1 p.m. Pacific, we will be doing an announcement, which is a pretty big deal for the show. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And with that said, we will be also hosting Soulcasts from Team Liquid as well. So again, thanks guys for joining me. It's been a pleasure, and thank you to all of you in chat. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.